second try. Let's see if we can figure out why Twitch won't stream the first time I try and stream. Ah, second time's the charm, I guess. I'll go over and paste it in Twitter. I'm streaming game dev. Something to do with spaceships. Paste. And my heat is on way too high. I don't think I need it to be 80 degrees. All right. Hey, Eva Luigi and pink hair. I am online. Hurrah! It still says I'm offline, but I think that everyone can hear me. If not, let me know. We are going to do some stuff today, but to be honest, I'm not sure what I want to do. When I think about how this is going to integrate into the game at large, I start to think about what step I should take next to do that integration. Would it be best if... Evil Luigi says he can hear me. Great. Would it be best if I were going to work on the manual piloting stuff, even though that's super low priority? I don't think so. I think it would be better if I were to focus on something else first. Like being near a planet and having missions that affect the planet. That would probably be for the best. I don't have any planet shaders right now, so if I do make a planet, it's going to look pretty crap. So if we open up the garden stage, this is where we did most of our work. It's hopelessly obsolete at this point, but we can see that there are a couple of planets that we created. So what we could easily do here is basically delete all of this stuff. But I don't think I want to delete it until I have replicated it. So I guess I'll create a new scene, maybe. Well, pink hair, there are games that get away without having much to do, but I think that most people who build spaceships want to build spaceships, so we're going to go ahead and create a new scene. We don't need this main camera or this directional light. What we're going to do is drop in our universal camera. But that said, I'm actually not sure that we've saved it recently, so... Oh, I spelled it Gaddon. I am from Boston, so I guess that makes sense. There we are. So our universal camera on a stick hasn't had its changes saved recently. And I think it needs to, so that we can use it somewhere else. Hurrah! The ship template also hasn't had itself saved recently. So we'll go ahead and drop that in. And now let's go back over into the garden. Oh, in the universe. We need to have that saved. For some reason, it's not actually connected to the prefab in question. It is, okay. So we'll just save that. I'm not sure why it wasn't blue. That was kind of weird. Alright, I think that's everything we need to get started. Let's hop on over into our garden. Save. So the basic idea here is we're going to be transferring the ship across from whatever the construction kit is into this real environment, into this game environment where there's things to do. So let's put in our prefabs, like the universe and the camera stick and the ship template. Now, to some extent, these things are not going to be properly connected anymore because a lot of them are looking for things that don't exist. Oh, and the universe I/O. I'm actually not sure that we even use this anymore. No, we do. We use it for the saving the names and stuff. But the mix and visuals we don't use anymore. Let's go ahead and clean up some of these old approaches that no longer matter. The mix-in visuals were a pretty good idea, and I think in the end we may have to bring them back someday, so that you can click on parts of your ship to change the functionality or something. But this isn't the way to do it, so we're going to go ahead and delete these mix-in visuals. And I don't believe that anyone uses them. Yeah, it looks like we're clean. I think that nobody uses them anymore. We long ago got rid of them. I probably should have done a check references. Oh, here we are. Well, this is the mix-in visual class, and we're not going to be using that anymore either. We're probably going to be deleting it. Yeah, let's go ahead and delete all the mix-in visual classes. They're just a noise at this point. Boom. Looks good. Let's see what that broke. Nothing. All right, good. I had long ago disentangled that, and I was just kind of gambling on the fact that I disentangled it properly. I forgot to make a custom sprite for this. I made some other custom things, but this didn't occur to me to make a custom sprite. So we can't see it at the moment. It's all automatic. You can't manually pilot anything. But what we're going to want to do is make this inherit a ship when we load the scene. And to do that, what we're going to want to do is just load the saved ship. The problem is that you may not have saved the ship. You may like press go into universe and not save it properly. So we're going to have to save it, then switch, then load it. Another option is that we can load asynchronously. We can load in the new level without deleting the old level. We can load additional, I forget what it's called. The problem with that is that there is a bunch of random crap in the construction scene which we don't want in this scene, including like the universe. Hey, Erdroy. So I'm not 100% sure whether we would prefer to do a save and load, or whether we would prefer to carry the ship over using a don't delete. I guess using a don't delete is probably the easiest option. So we're going to go ahead and go into the ship here. We're going to need to adjust this ship to point out whether or not it is the main ship. And if it is the main ship, we're not going to want to load it. So for now, we're going to just say don't delete ships. We'll have to manually delete them. And we can put that in start. Do we have a start or an awake? Yeah. To do, separate out which ships can be deleted. Other than that, we're going to say GameObject.don't_delete. What was it called? Don't delete? Don't destroy unload. There it is. And then the game object. Now this way, when we load a scene, we will carry the ship over between the scenes. Now in the long run, we're probably going to want to also carry the universe over between the scenes. But the problem with that is that our universe has a lot of customizable stuff that may want to be different between the construction scene and the final scene. Most specifically, we're eventually going to want to turn off resource use when we're in the construction mode, because that's, you know, you don't want to come out of construction mode burned resources. Now, I think that this universe is accustomed to having a bunch of entries here. Let's go ahead and take a look over at the construction. No, okay, so it finds all that stuff automatically. That's fine. It does want one of these guys, but that's a prefab, so that's fine. We don't care about the engineering UI elements anymore. Those don't actually get used. I guess that means I should delete them. I wish this would stop, but I haven't updated to the newest version of Unity yet, because that would have taken like an hour, and I didn't get home until 5 minutes before I started streaming, so I think that that's everything. So it looks like our... Yeah, it looks like our universe doesn't actually require a ship. It will automatically find a ship when it's asked to. Unenable live equals this. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a button which allows us to switch over into a different scene, the Garden 2 scene. But we're going to go ahead and do some renaming. We're going to call this Garden Obsolete, and we will call this Garden. Perfect. And what we're going to want to do is change these build settings to include Garden. Oh, it's not open at the moment. That's fine. Boom. That way we'll be able to load that scene when necessary. So we're going to want to have a new button somewhere which will allow us to go into our garden, to go into the live universe. And there's no easy place to put that here. But what we could do is we could move the load and save ship buttons into the edit info window if we wanted to. No, that would be... Would that be okay? I'm not sure. Other than that, there's really not a good place to put a button. I don't want to shrink this any more than it already is. I think that we're going to want to put ship info as its own thing, with saving and loading as a big element of that. By the way, I added in a bunch of new textures, so I hope that you like how they look. Can you hear me okay over the background music? Because it's super loud for me. I'm gonna turn down the... There. I'm beginning to really like how these ships look in terms of feeling alive, or feeling more alive. There's still a long way to go, but it feels like we're getting there. So let's go ahead and modify the required ship overview panel. Is this it? No. The UI overlay, is this it? Yeah, there it is. So these buttons here are the issue. We're going to go ahead and make edit info into a ship info tab. And when we open up the ship info tab, which is right here, it will have the buttons that we need. Let's pull this forward so we can see it as a separate object. It will have the buttons that we need, the load and save buttons. So we'll just drop them into the ship info tab like so. And move them forward like so. And we will put them here. And they should still just work, but let's go ahead and double check that. Oh, I left them. Left it on. Hold on. Ba-doom. Ba-doom. Boom. It works, but it doesn't close the proper window, so that's what we're going to have to change now. That's fine. So here is the ship info. These buttons are also not visible enough, so we're going to go ahead and expand this border region, I think. And then we'll move the name panel and name description to the right. And the load and the save will now be within the bounded region, so they'll feel like they actually exist. There we go, like so. And load will have to clear out this menu, and same with save. If we take a look at the background that we've got here, this ends up setting ship info off, and that's all we need to do in order to actually set this up, to turn it off. So we're going to do exactly that. And this is the easiest way to handle UI. I don't know if you've done very much UI, but if all of your UI properly responds to being turned on and off, then you don't have to have a bunch of specialized functions. You can just turn them on and off. It's super straightforward. The only problem is that you're going to have to remember to turn these things off, or you'll end up in an unusual state when you start. So you could have like something which turns them off or whatever. I just haven't put that together. Here's the Agrippa. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now we've got that ship info button, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and have a spawn into game button. As you might guess, spawn into game world. As you might guess, there is currently no easy way to tell it to load up a new scene. I can't just drop in a scene. But what I can do, actually I might be able to. I haven't tried that before. Can I just drop in a scene? No, I can't. Okay. That would have been too nice. So we'll go ahead and open up the universe script. And we'll add in a new... Yeah, Firefox has been getting really laggy, but don't forget that there is a zero-day release right now, a zero-day problem, which allows anyone running JavaScript to hack your machine. So I would recommend against using Firefox until they fix that. It's probably going to be about 2 weeks. Or turn off JavaScript. And that, of course, is like December 1st, 2016, in case you're watching this later. Right, universe. This is the universe mouse control. I want the universe. There it is. So we're going to go ahead and create a new function. Public void load scene string scene. And then we'll just use the standard scene loading assets, which I think is scene dot... No? I can't... It's been a while since I've actually had to do this, believe it or not. So I think that that's not loading the scene. That's loading up... here it is, load scene. Okay. That is this function. So is it application.load scene load level. There we are. Oh, it's depreciated. What is it instead now? Use scene manager.load scene. Okay. So let's see whether we can find it. Wasn't there like a button I could press to make this automatically insert the right thing? I don't know what it is. Well, I guess we'll just type it. Using Unity engine.scene management, which is almost certainly it. No script will help a lot, but it's not guaranteed to work unless you actually have JavaScript disabled entirely. It's basically a more aggressive version of the advertising malware that we've been seeing for quite a while. Oh, interesting. So I can load it with a scene mode. Let's see what that is. Lone scene mode dot additive and then dot single. Okay. I would bet that the default is single. I'm almost sure. We'll know for sure real soon. Debug.log loading plus scene. Let's give it a shot. Oh, I forgot to actually... Idiot. As it turns out, you have to actually tell it to do something if you want it to do something. There we go. So that's going to load up the proper scene, and let's go ahead and start this disabled. Oh, Pink Hair, I don't know whether or not WaterFox is immune, but this is a Windows-based JavaScript problem. So if you're using a, what do you call it? If you're using a a Firefox descendant like Tor, it is still a problem. Well, great news, it works fine. Of course, the bad news is that this scene is empty and awful and doesn't have any player controllers built into it or anything. The good news is that the ship works just fine. It is absolutely happy to just keep operating along without any player control, and that's the point. We have this ability for ships to operate without player control. The player isn't going to be in full control of the ship most of the time. Oh, this is a cool way to organize things. Now, the downside of this is that we do not have any player controls, as I explained. The player controls that we have in the construction scene are all based around the concept of constructing things, which I think you'll agree is not really what you want to do when you're not constructing things. So what we're going to want is we're going to want a new controller in our garden. We're going to go ahead and take a quick little template ship here. And this template ship, the Agrippa, where is it? There it is. This template ship will be just stuck in our prefabs as a temporary ship. And we'll call it Agrippa example. There we are. And that way we can drop that in our new scene rather than having to continually go and load up that scene over and over again. So now that we've got the example ship, we can just drop it in, and it should work exactly as if we had imported it from the scene list. The problem is that if we forget to delete it, we'll end up with two ships, so we'll have to be careful about that. I wonder whether or not there is any way to detect whether a ship... Oh, that's a good point. I can make it so that the ship deletes itself if it detects another ship. But the problem is that there are times when we're going to have multiple ships. Can a scene detect whether it's loaded? Let me check out something here, because I don't like the idea of having a potential issue. So time dot real time since startup. Time since level load. So if we look at this, if we say if time since level load does not equal time.realTime since startup, that means that we are not the first scene to load. So if we are the first scene to load, that's fine. But if we're not the first scene to load, delete temporary ships. And rather than assume that we're going to have a name that works for us, we should add in a temporary bool. Public bool delete on, or we'll call this debug ship equals false. Tooltip. Debug ships delete themselves if they aren't in the initial scene. Initial run. For the scene first run. So if we're not the first ship and we are a debug ship, then destroy game object and of course debug log. Debug.log. A debug ship is self-destructing plus name. And the example will be a debug ship. Boom. So let's try this out. If I hit play, it's gone. Apparently that time does not actually work out. Time since level load and real time since startup are not going to be the same if you're the first to load. I wonder if there's a way to determine whether or not your scene manager dot Unity engine dot scene management dot scene utility. I got the easiest way to do it. We'll just say that if there are already ships in our list. There we are. So here is our ship. But if we were to go back over into our construction scene and hit play and load up a new ship like the Red Planet. Here it is. Let's go ahead and spawn it into the game world, and you can see that the Agrippa is gone. There's no longer an Agrippa. It deletes itself because it's a debug ship. So that'll allow us to go ahead and start up in whatever scene we want without having to worry about the fact that there may not be an imported ship. We just put in a temporary ship. There are other ways to do this. I just kind of tossed it together, but you can do a lot of different things with it. This is fine, though. We don't need to do it any better than this. I'm not a fan of having this piloting ring visible, so I'm going to just move it down so that we don't have to worry about it while we're looking at the scene. Because only the orientation matters, the location doesn't matter. So there's a lot of stuff left to do before this is a usable scene. One of the things I'd like to get out of the way early on here is the skybox. Because that skybox is awful. We'll just use one of Pinkhair's standard skyboxes. This is just a blank stars skybox. But we're also going to want to have a planet. So if we create a new sphere and put it at 0, 0, 0 and make the layer default, then what we should have is a sphere that can be seen, but only behind the ship. If we look at the universe cam on a stick, the universe camera here can see everything. Nothing. Default. There we are. So now that can only see the default stuff, and it'll pop up behind. And if we hit play, we can't see it because it is popping up behind. If we moved it to the front, you can see that, oh, it's not, it's gotta go depth only here. There we are. Well, it's intended to be the background camera, so there's some finicky stuff going on. But basically, we want to be able to see this sphere. I think what we're going to want to do is have a new layer. So we'll go ahead and call this planet or enviro. And this planet, we'll put this on the enviro layer, and we will make the universe cam only able to see the enviro layer. Like so. Now, the problem is that right now, we won't be able to see this through the ship. This is at the same scale as the ship. The camera doesn't have any scale trickery built into it at the moment. So I'm going to make it nice and big. And I still can't see it. Oh, is my camera inside it now? No, it shouldn't be. Is the camera... I know, is the universe camera way up here in the front? Is that the issue? It is. So it's been inside the sphere the whole time. With the sphere here. You can now see it. There's no universal light source at the moment, so we can't see it very well, but if I turn on the low quality interior light, you should be able to see it. No, because the light's too low quality. So I will need to add a sun. Let's go ahead and do that. Sun. Go ahead and make it an orangey sun like this. And we'll pump up the... we'll go ahead and give it some shadows. There we are. That said, I don't think that this needs to receive any shadows. What do you think? Oh, I've got to change it for all of them. There we are. So now we've got the planet. Now the planet has to be set up to not receive shadows as well, because the shadows would be from the wrong ship. They'd be from the ship. You'd be like, why is the ship casting a huge shadow onto the surface of the sphere? So we're going to go ahead and turn all that off. And now you can see that behind us we have the curve of a planet. Move it down here. So the trick here, and this is a Kerbal trick. Sorry. The trick here is that the planet is at a different scale than the ship. So rather than the planet being an actual planet-sized planet, we can make the planet appear larger by adjusting the camera angle that we see the planet at. Now the problem with this approach is that when the camera moves, this really degrades. So just as an example, if we go over into, we create a new controller here, player controller. We're going to just go ahead and create a basic controller that will allow us to... There you are. Player controller. Here we are. And a camera. We got that. What is that camera that we were using so much? Camera control highlighted orbit. Here we are. That should do. Oh, it doesn't understand how to target the ship. Temporarily speaking, we'll let it just target the ship directly like this. I'm still not getting any camera control here. Does this not... There it is. It's not actually being called. That's interesting. Why isn't it being called? So the player controller and the universe are both getting called, which is a little bit odd because the player control is marked as opaque. But at least we know that it's happening. So if controls.count -1 does not equal this, then we don't care. We just ditch out. Otherwise, we are in control. So debug.log name. Let's see whether or not the in control functionality is working. The universe is in control. Huh. For some reason, the universe is being judged as more in control than anyone else. That's not what I expected. That's interesting. Well, let's just go ahead and drop in the camera control schema here. We don't even need the player control at the moment. That should do. Ah, there we are. So what I was trying to say is that the planetary illusion fades pretty quickly when our camera starts to move, and that has been some puzzle that I haven't really been able to fix yet. So you can see that when we zoomed out, we have a situation where that works okay. When we zoom in, that also works okay. Oh! But when we move, the camera moves in a way that moves the origin, not just the individual piece that we need. Also, the lights are hitting our planet, which is a problem that everyone remembers from Kerbal. Everyone who's played Kerbal has had that issue. So that's obviously one we're going to have to tweak. Whether or not that means going through and changing the lights, I think it probably does. The other option is I can make the planet not receive light, but that seems like a poor choice. Just as a basic option, we can go in here, take a look at the maneuvering thrusters. Here they are. We got an error light. Culling mask. Just ship size, I think. And similarly, well, I guess I'll have to pull it in to do this part, but within here we have another light, which we will go ahead and set to just the ship size. There we are. That won't fix our test Agrippa though, because our test Agrippa has the old school lights. We don't reload this on a test form. But for future proofing, that'll work fine. What I don't like is I can't figure out how to make this camera system work. I have to have a static camera that doesn't move as our universe camera, because obviously this is just hilariously wrong. Watch as we teleport through the planet. Those of you with good memories probably remember me struggling with this before as well. Even when the universe camera doesn't move around awkwardly, it still has the wrong vision. It's it doesn't, this motion here is not how it would actually look. And that might just be a field of view problem. Well, fundamentally, the camera inside of our ship has to be decoupled with the camera that views the planet. There is an easy way to do that. Boom, they're decoupled. The problem is that now it doesn't react to me maneuvering around at all. So what we need is a camera which sticks to where it was originally spawned, but will turn along with us. So we'll create a script for that. Scripts. Return to spawn point every frame. Here in Awake, we'll go ahead and set our spawn point, vector3 spawn point. We'll say spawn point equals transform.position, and then every update we'll say transform.position equals spawn point. This should be a late update. I guess it doesn't have to be a late update, it can just be an update. Has to be a late update if it's an avatar thing, because Mechanim will screw it up. So here you can see, this is more like what I would like. You can see some hopping. That hopping is because it's returning to its position, but its position is actually offset, see? So we're gonna wanna make this local pause. No, it has to be positioned, doesn't it? What happens if we just make this a 0? We still get some hopping. The ships will never be moving fast enough for this to matter. All of the local motion that you're going to get is going to be so small that it won't change the overall planetary feel. When you go into warp or decide to go into orbit, there'll be a transition, and it will just change cameras entirely. Well, I think that that's reasonably okay, but it does require that the planets be offset a specific amount rather than the ship being offset. I guess that makes sense in some... Well... No, that's fine, because our global offset will always remain the same. Yeah, this will work. The other option is that I can bind the universe cam to the same rotation, but that requires the universe cam understanding what rotation it's supposed to be mimicking. Might involve a little bit less hopping and popping. Yeah, well, this game is built around the idea that I'm gonna sidestep all of those problems and all of those questions by just making it so that you don't operate the ship while it's in motion for long periods of time. If you're near a planet, then you're going to be stable and doing experiments and stuff. And if you're moving between planets, there's not going to be any substantial change to the background or anything. So my solution is to just not have those issues and to use some basic scene transition stuff to change the view when it needs to be changed. Of course, real in-world stuff like another ship or a station, those would be in real space and you would be able to move towards them and that sort of stuff. Although they may be so far away that you don't want to. Alright. Well, I think I can live with this. This is kind of a clunky solution, but it is overall not a terrible one. It means that the camera will automatically rotate with the other cameras, but not move with them. I could just reverse that if I wanted, rather than being the child. But being the child works out because that way I can keep all this stuff in the same place. Yeah, I think this is going to be okay. The only problem is that I've kind of written myself into a corner with this player controller nonsense. This universe here, I've specified some player controller stuff. And that works, but the target is currently set to the Agrippa, and the Agrippa can't be the target because the Agrippa is a test ship, and it's not going to be there when you spawn in your new ship. So if I don't have the Agrippa set as the target, the whole thing just farts. See, it's gone. It doesn't understand what I'm trying to do. But on the plus side, we may want to use a different kind of control. We may want to have it automatically populate. There are lots of options. One of the things we can do is have it automatically acquire whatever ship is first on the list if it can't find a target. I might as well do that. Oh, here it is on enable. If target equals null, then target equals ship dot ship 0. Oh, game object. If target equals null, then return transform. There, future-proofed. Let's try it on for size. Now, this might not actually work. Yeah, this one doesn't work because the universe awakes before the ship does. So if we drop this back in here, it'll work. But now what happens if we go over into our construction mode and we construct something like the Orbiter Prime here. Here is the Orbiter Prime. Now, if we decide that we want to go into our game world like so, you can see that we correctly moved over into this ship as our target. That's risky, though. Because I do it here on enable. It's better in here. Otherwise, it's like a crapshoot as to what actually triggers first. So, we don't want that. Don't save it. Oh well, doesn't matter. Yay! Perfect. And now, the ugliest planet in the world needs a little bit of an update, because that is not a pretty sight. Let's make it loom a little bit larger in the sky, and we'll give it a planetary material. Boop. What is a good planetary material? First off, we're a little bit too close to the ship. And second off, that doesn't work so well when we're this close now, does it? I'm surprised, but I don't think we have a default space. That's interesting, because I thought we had a planet already. Didn't we have a planet? We got clouds. Cities. So what am I using as my base material? Am I just using a default material, huh? Oh, I'm sorry, Eva Luigi. You asked a whole bunch of random things and I didn't ever look. Last stream a question came up, you were already away. Do the maneuvering thrusters account for the ones that can't fire? I did mention that, but basically, no. The final result of the maneuvering thrusters is just a numeric change to the simulation. The visuals are just there to be nice. And when your visuals... It would be really expensive to simulate whether or not the maneuvering thrusters were firing over the course of hours or days of thrust. So I just assume that they are, and if your visuals show that they're not, hopefully that will annoy you enough to place them correctly. Pink Hair says that he gave me one of his planetary shaders. That was a long time ago. I probably still have it somewhere. If you wanted to send another prototype planetary shader my way, I would be happy to have it. Otherwise, I'm just going to build a crappy material right now. Yeah, otherwise it's expensive, Eva Luigi, like really expensive, so... Material. Just duplicate something. So we're just going to pick something that's got some speckles or splotches or something. Like this'll do. Speckles. Drop it on our planet here. And get rid of these guys. Oh no, wait, we want more speckles. Speckles again. Splotches? Splotches. Oh, it's not a hard behavior to program if you're working on standard physics steps, but I'm not. I allow the player to scale to any arbitrary timescale, and that is super, super expensive if you want to have some kind of fidelity to the simulation. So there's not going to be any fidelity to the simulation. It is that simple. Oh, this is the normal map. So splotches. Here we are, speckles. So. It's not even hundreds. It's not even hundreds of times faster. There's times when you're gonna want to run tens of thousands of times faster. So yeah. Also, there are n number of ships. So if you're running, day to day, and you've got 400 ships, do you really want to try and simulate all of the maneuvering thrusters on all of those ships? It doesn't scale. So instead, you boil it down to a very, very simple mathematical formula and live with it. Pinkhair has been considering ways to redo the planetary shader. I haven't really gotten into the planetary shader business just yet. I don't have any strong opinions on it just yet. That is not a very good Earth. That's also a pretty crappy Earth. But we're going to go ahead and put in some clouds here. Ooh, that is a heck of a wispy cloud cover. Oh, that's no good. That's not actually a transparent... You know what the clouds should be? They should be a particle shader. Boom. So that's a pretty basic way to do these things. Whoa. But you can see that we kind of spawn inside of the atmosphere because the atmosphere is larger than you might think. This is obviously just a placeholder until we get some real stuff happening, but, you know. So the giant pixelated blorbs of the planetary surface are what the shader needs to get rid of, because those are obviously not going to cut it. Unfortunately, I don't have any sort of replacement for it yet. But that's okay, we're just gonna back it off until it looks not too terrible. We're in high orbit, yay! And over time, we will change out this planet to something which actually looks good and has a dedicated planet shader and maybe atmospheric shader attached to it. Anyway, congratulations, we now have the ability to put ships in high orbit around a planet. The fact that the planet sucks and the ship can't do anything yet is, I think a matter for Saturday. I'm getting real hungry, so I am thinking about stopping. If Pinkhair wants to talk to me about shader stuff, I am happy to do so either here in the chat or on Twitter. Although I'm not sure how much use I'll be since I know very little about shaders. I'm gonna see you later, guys. I am really hungry. So that's all I can bear, and I can't take no more.